Holidays can be a really tough time for people who struggle with binge eating or eating disorders, because when we think about Christmas or New Year's Eve, all those big fancy dinner parties and get together, right? And with all those food presented in front of us, it kind of just triggers our urge to binge eat, to get out of control. At the same time, we're in the middle of a pandemic, which means that people might get separated from family or friends, and even robbed of the opportunity to find love simply because of COVID, which leaves people feel even more vulnerable. So today I wanted to offer you 5 practical tips that can help you survive this holiday season. Let's begin. As I've mentioned, in holiday seasons, people are prone to binge eat, and I wanted to dive into the reasons very quickly. Firstly, food occasions are like rituals for holiday seasons. When we visualize holiday seasons, we think about like those fancy dinner parties, delicate cuisines, and all those sweets. And when we are eating at home alone, we seem to have everything under control because we know exactly the ingredients and the process we cook it. Our mind would constantly be under alarm state because we wanted to meet our dietary goal for that day, right? But when we're at those dinner parties, it's hard for us to control what ingredients and what they put in. And also hard to control the proportion because they're always gonna serve more and more, and you don't know like what you're gonna expect. Maybe something even fancier and even more delicate and even more tasty. So when we're eating with a group of people, our nerves tend to get loosened a little bit, right? And also when we're faced with this big variety of food that we don't normally allow ourselves to eat, a sense of urgency would arise during the eating process. It just seems like such a rare opportunity, so you are likely to gulp at this occasion. At the same time, imitation behaviors are likely to happen because all those people, they just seem to have a perfectly good relationship with food, and they just seem to all kind of enjoy the food and enjoy the process, and they allow themselves to eat. But this time, and you would want it to be one of them. You wanted to pretend, at least try to be like the normal eater. So to avoid this situation, we really should be prepared, even though there's no way that we can know ahead of time or decide what's going to be served during each meal. But knowing the time and schedule for that day would really help you have it under control. Say you know that dinner party is probably gonna be around 8 p.m. Have some snacks or fruits in your bag and try to consume them probably around 5 p.m. so that you feel a bit satisfied before the dinner, and also you don't starve yourself to a point that you could completely just pig out in the dinner party. Food certainty and stable supply are essential at this stage. It just helps you manage your expectations and also helps you have it under control. Tip number 2, don't intentionally avoid the bad food. Don't try to limit yourself like, oh, I'm only gonna eat vegetables in the dinner party because cupcakes, they may look yummy, but they're pretty bad, especially if I eat it at night. This kind of restriction really sets you up for failure because it's very unlikely that you are able to do this, like you're able to not eat anything like you seem as like bad, right? Because everybody is eating it and they are gonna persuade you to eat them as well. My advice would be go to the most tempting ones, the ones that you wanted to try the most firstly, because eating those foods that you have most appetite for would make you feel satisfied, hence less likely to binge. A couple of bites of them are so much better than eating a bunch of replacement food that don't make you feel like genuinely satisfied just because you assume they're safe in calories. And also don't try to limit the variety of food that you intake. Chances are there are going to be so many yummy things that you don't normally have the opportunity to eat. Try to allow yourself to have all of them, but in small proportion. Eat in moderation. It just really helps you stay in control. Tip number 3, try to be mindful when you eat. Try to be in that moment. Try to feel the texture and the taste of the food to see if you really enjoy it. And move on to the next thing the second you notice that it stops tasting that good. And also try to notice like the body signals. Notice the moment when you stopped feeling that hungry. And notice the moment when you start to feel a little bit fullness in your body, like in your belly. and try to give yourself this opportunity to stop or to pause in the middle. I know sometimes it can be really hard for people just to abandon their food, right? But maybe just stand up for a bit to toast someone or get up to use the bathroom. It gives you extra seconds or minutes to tune into your body and to see how you really feel. I know a lot of times we're under the pressure to eat. For example, the host is extra warm-hearted and they wanted to see you clean your plate because it shows that how satisfied and how appreciative you have been of their meal, right? But do the same thing too. Try to toast them or try to get up and try to stand up for a bit, check your phone and all those things that give you extra seconds to really explore how you feel and decide if you wanted to continue or stop eating. Tip number 4. Find connection while accepting your vulnerability. Sharing my favorite quote from Brené Brown, who is famous for her book, The Power of Vulnerability. Staying vulnerable is a risk we have to take if we wanted to experience connection. This deeply seated feeling of loneliness is very likely to get triggered in holiday seasons, especially for people who are separated from their family and friends during COVID, and also people who have experienced losses this year. For one, I ended in my relationship this year because of COVID. I didn't get to see him. So, we kind of just ended it. It wasn't gonna work out anyways, but I kind of felt more lonely and more isolated than ever this year. At the same time, the whole world of holiday vibes would aggressively take us in, and we would, they just come crashing down on us, and it's very likely that we're going to conduct some unconscious social comparisons. I personally follow a lot of Instagram accounts. For example, every year I see Cristiano Ronaldo and Chris Tigan, the Beckham family. They have the most beautiful families in the world, and I'm so happy for them. But at the same time, I can't help but feeling so miserable myself. With all those social comparisons, we're just left with a feeling of unwanted, unworthy of love and intimacy and attention. With this overwhelming feeling of emptiness, we may try to turn to food for help, and we might think that filling us up will be a good way for us to avoid this void. Instead of reaching out for connections, we're trying to protect our ego or something. We just completely do social withdrawals and we completely pretend that we're okay because everyone was assuming that everyone else was happy and they are so crazy about each other while we're being left alone. So that's why we try to protect ourselves by appearing perfect to the world. But the truth is we are all alone in the world. We're all lonely sometimes. And accepting the vulnerability that we're feeling is really the foundation of building meaningful relationship. Knowing that it's completely validated of how we feel, we can just try to be open about our vulnerability and still reaching out for connections. So pick up your phone, call or video chat with a friend or family member, check in with how they're doing and just let them know that you're thinking about them. Letting them know you're alone and missing them. You still wanted to celebrate each other's life despite distances. Simply by opening up, it breaks down the wall of isolation. You may end up finding out that no others have a perfect life. People all seem happy together, but it cannot be further from the truth. Because after all, we're all in this world alone, and connections make it all worthwhile. Besides loneliness, holidays can trigger a lot of emotions and stressors which make us just prone to binge eat. We may not only use food as consolation, but also as a way of self-punishment. I've done detailed analysis in my video, Why We Binge Eat. If you're interested in more details, you can check it out later. But here comes my last tip. Proactively prepare a list of healthy distractions for yourself. You can construct this list proactively before anything happens, and also you can use it after the binge eating happens. Even if it did happen, please cut loose on yourself. Please don't worry too much because it's holiday. It's normal that people overeat. It's not just you. And also don't try to compare how much you eat with those normal eaters, because everybody's relationship with food is different, and also their capacity of stomach is different as well. So don't try to find another excuse to beat yourself up. I cannot stress this hard enough. It has nothing to do with how weak you are or how much you lack self-control. Please remember this. Lastly, I wanted to share a couple of healthy distraction ideas for me in holidays that help me tackle difficult emotions instead of using food. The first one I usually do at home alone is to sing karaoke. Like, I have a couple of karaoke apps on my phone. I just try to close all my windows and doors from my neighbors from hearing them, and I would just shout as much, like as loud as I could, and try to enjoy all of my favorite songs back in the 80s, 70s, until the most trendy ones on billboards right now. Like, I don't really care about what kind of voice I sing. I simply enjoy the fact that my emotions are being expressed through my voice and through my body movements. I would go literally crazy in the process, and afterwards I usually feel so excited and happy. Karaoke is definitely one of the best ways of chasing away my blues. And the second one is meditation. I know a lot of people get kind of tired of hearing this over and over again, kind of just get resistant to the idea. But I wanted to say that it's not that scary and it's not that cliche, because it actually works. I wanted to dedicate another video in explaining in detail of how it works, but basically it just kind of pulls us out of the stories of the meanings we assign to a situation, because we're so used to act on our thoughts without questioning if it's reality or just imagination. And meditation can really do the job of keeping us grounded and back to reality and view this in a more neutral way. Lastly, just to pick a lot of festive movies or TV dramas. And recently I'm watching Bob's Burger and also The Simpsons. And I would try to pick their holiday episodes because it just feels so warm, and all this family just seems like so lighthearted, but they are just enjoying each other's company as a family. And that kind of just made me feel like I have something to look forward to in the future, something that I can hope for in the future. And sometimes when my friend is alone, I would invite them to watch the same episode over Skype or over Zoom, because I feel like even though we're in different places, but we're enjoying the same show and sharing the same experience. And that's really exciting and it's really fun. Alright, my friends, thanks for sitting through this video. I wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year ahead of time. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.